The darkness of space exploded with blinding light as the Imperial Dreadnought Sovereign's fist tore through the fabric of reality itself. The massive warship emerged from its hyperspace jump like a metal demon, its black hull stretching over 15 kilometers from bow to stern. Scars from plasma cannons and energy weapons covered its surface, each mark a testament to another world that had fallen before Imperial might. Admiral Quan De Ho pressed his palm against the cool metal of the observation deck aboard Earth's primary orbital defense station, Haven's Shield. The 50-year-old veteran had spent his entire career preparing for this moment, though he'd always hoped it would never come. His dark eyes tracked the alien vessel as it moved with predatory grace through the outer solar system, its massive engines casting an eerie blue glow against the starfield. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures," Lieutenant Park Mira called out from her station, her voice tight with controlled fear. The young officer's fingers flew across the holographic displays that surrounded her workstation, streams of data cascading through the air in brilliant blue patterns. Hull composition appears to be some kind of reinforced alloy we've never seen before. Energy output is off the charts. The command center buzzed with activity as dozens of technicians and officers worked frantically at their stations. Warning, lights bathed the room in alternating red and amber, while the constant hum of computers processing incoming data filled the air. Through the massive viewports that dominated one wall, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black void, peaceful, and unaware of the threat now lurking at the edge of their solar system. "Admiral, incoming transmission on all frequencies," Park reported, her hands trembling slightly as she isolated the alien signal. "They're broadcasting in perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, and dozens of other Earth languages." Quan's jaw tightened. The implications were terrifying. These aliens had been studying humanity long enough to master their languages, which meant they'd been watching, planning, preparing for this moment. The transmission burst to life with a voice that sounded like grinding metal mixed with the roar of distant thunder. "Primitive species of the third planet from your star, hear the words of the Galactic Empire. You exist at our mercy. You will surrender all military assets and submit to Imperial governance within 72 of your standard hours. Your planet's resources will be catalogued and redistributed according to Imperial law. Your population will be relocated to designated sectors where you will serve the greater glory of the Empire. Resistance is not merely futile, it is forbidden. Any act of defiance will result in the complete sterilization of your world. This is the only communication you will receive." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Through the viewports, the Imperial Dreadnought continued its slow, menacing approach toward the inner solar system. The elevator doors hissed open, and Defense Minister Kim So-jin strode into the command center with purposeful steps. The 60-year-old woman had served in 3 different conflicts before taking her current position, and her weathered face showed no trace of the fear that gripped everyone else in the room. Her gray hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her military uniform bore the insignia of Earth's highest defense authority. "Report," she ordered simply, moving to stand beside Quan at the observation windows. "Single vessel, approximately 15 kilometers in length," Quan replied, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "Energy readings suggest weapons capabilities that could level entire continents. They've given us 72 hours to surrender unconditionally." Kim's expression didn't change, but her hands clenched slightly behind her back. 72 hours. How remarkably generous of them to allow us time to contemplate our own extinction. Commander Lee Jun-ho, a stocky man in his 30s with kind eyes that now reflected deep concern, looked up from the communications array. "Admiral, should we contact the other defense stations? Lunar Command and the asteroid installations need to know what we're dealing with." Quan turned away from the viewport, his mind racing through possibilities and contingencies that had been planned for decades but never implemented. Earth's defense network was far more extensive than most people realized, but even their most optimistic projections had never accounted for technology this advanced. "Negative, Commander. Maintain communication silence with all other installations. If they're monitoring our transmissions, I don't want them to know the full extent of our defensive capabilities." He paused, studying the faces of his crew. "At least not yet." Park looked up from her sensor station, confusion evident in her voice. "Sir, should we alert the planetary governments? The people have a right to know." "The people have a right to live," Kim interjected coldly. "Mass panic serves no one. We handle this through proper channels." Quan walked slowly to the central command console, his weathered hands moving with practiced precision across the control surfaces. For months, Earth's hidden deep space monitoring stations had been tracking unusual energy signatures moving through their sector of the galaxy. What had initially appeared to be natural phenomena had gradually revealed itself to be something far more sinister. A fleet of massive vessels moving with purpose toward their solar system. The data they'd collected was both fascinating and terrifying. These aliens, whoever they were, had been systematically conquering worlds for centuries. Intercepted communications from distant battlefields had revealed tactics technologies and a level of organized destruction that made humanity's own wars seem like children's games. But humanity had advantages that these aliens couldn't possibly understand. While they'd been watching from afar, Earth's greatest minds had been analyzing every scrap of data, every intercepted transmission, every tactical decision made by the Imperial forces in their distant campaigns. "Commander Lee, open a channel on all Imperial frequencies," Quan ordered, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's first official response to an alien civilization. The command center fell silent, except for the hum of machinery and the distant rumble of the station's life support systems. Every eye turned toward their admiral as he prepared to speak words that would echo across the galaxy. "Unknown Imperial forces, this is Admiral Quan De Ho of Earth's Unified Defense Council," he began, his voice steady and clear. "You have made a grave error in judgment by threatening this world and its people. You assume that because we have not ventured beyond our system, we are weak. You assume that because we appear primitive, we are helpless. You are wrong on both counts." He paused, letting his words carry across the void to the alien vessel that had come to destroy everything he'd sworn to protect. "This is your only warning. Withdraw from our system immediately or face the consequences of humanity's true nature. You will regret ignoring this message more than any decision you have ever made." The transmission ended, and an ominous silence settled over the command center like a heavy blanket. Outside the viewports, the Imperial dreadnought continued its approach, seemingly unimpressed by humanity's defiant response. But deep within Earth's hidden installations, ancient protocols were activating, and weapons that had never been tested in combat were coming online. The aliens had given humanity 72 hours to surrender. They had no idea they'd just given Earth's defenders 72 hours to prepare for war. Deep within the command chamber of the Sovereign's Fist, Imperial Fleet Commander Vextar, the Conqueror, lounged on his crystalline throne, his reptilian form stretching nearly 3 meters in height. His scaled skin shifted from deep purple to metallic silver as his mood changed, a biological trait that had served him well in intimidating countless species across the galaxy. 4 arms extended from his muscular torso, each ending in clawed, hands capable of crushing steel, while his elongated skull housed a brain that had orchestrated the conquest of over 200 worlds. The human transmission played again on his personal display, and Vextar's throat sacs inflated with what passed for laughter among the Zephyrian race. The sound resembled the grinding of metal against stone, echoing through the vast command chamber, where dozens of alien technicians worked at biomechanical interfaces that pulsed with organic light. "Commander, these humans are even more primitive than our initial scans suggested," reported Sub-Commander Kretak, his insectoid features clicking with mechanical precision as he processed data streams. The 6-armed creature's compound eyes reflected the holographic displays that surrounded his workstation, each facet capturing different aspects of Earth's technological capabilities. Their most advanced weapons appear to be chemical-based projectiles and crude nuclear devices. Their energy generation relies entirely on fossil fuels and primitive fission reactors. Vextar's secondary arms gestured dismissively, while his primary hands manipulated the tactical display, hovering before his throne. Three-dimensional images of Earth's major cities rotated slowly, showing population centers, military installations, and industrial complexes. Each target was already marked for either destruction or conversion to Imperial use. "What of their space-based defenses?" Vexitar asked, though his tone suggested the answer would be equally disappointing. "Minimal, Commander," replied the intelligence officer, a crystalline being whose translucent body housed swirling gases that changed color with each thought. A few orbital platforms with basic sensor arrays and communication relays. Their largest space station appears to be primarily for scientific research. No evidence of energy shields, plasma weaponry, or quantum manipulation technology. The massive view screen at the front of the command chamber displayed Earth in all its blue and green glory, rotating peacefully against the star field. To the Imperial forces, it looked like every other primitive world they'd encountered, rich in resources but defended by beings too backward to pose any real threat. "Increase scanner intensity," Vexitar ordered. "I want a complete analysis of their defensive capabilities. Leave nothing to chance." 380,000 kilometers away, buried beneath the lunar surface in a facility that had taken 2 decades to construct, Colonel Cho Min-soo watched the Imperial scanner beams sweep across the moon's surface like searchlights probing the darkness. The 45-year-old engineer had spent the last 15 years of his life perfecting the quantum dampening technology that kept their installation invisible to alien sensors. The lunar command center stretched for kilometers through natural lava tubes that had been expanded and reinforced with materials that didn't exist in any public database. Hundreds of technicians worked at stations carved directly into the rock walls, their equipment humming with power drawn from fusion reactors, hidden even deeper within the moon's core. "Colonel, Imperial scans are increasing in intensity," reported Sergeant Yoon Hye-jin from her sensor station, her young face illuminated by the soft blue glow of her displays. The 28-year-old had volunteered for lunar duty straight out of the academy, knowing she might spend years in isolation to protect Earth's greatest secret. "They're using some kind of quantum resonance scanner I've never seen before." Cho Min-soo moved between the workstations with practiced ease, his experienced eyes monitoring dozens of readouts that tracked the alien vessel's scanning attempts. The quantum dampening field generators that surrounded their facility consumed enormous amounts of power, but they rendered the installation completely invisible to conventional sensors and most exotic detection methods. "Dampening field status?" he asked technical specialist Kim Dong-woo, a brilliant young man whose innovations had improved their stealth capabilities by 300% over the past year. "Holding steady at 97% efficiency," Dong-woo replied, his fingers dancing across holographic controls that adjusted field harmonics in real time. "The alien scanners are sophisticated, but they're looking for energy signatures and metallic structures. They can't detect gravitational anomalies at this resolution." Back on Earth's orbital defense station, Defense Minister Kim So-jin received encrypted status reports from installations across the solar system that officially didn't exist. Her secure terminal displayed a 3-dimensional map of the entire solar system, with dozens of green dots representing hidden facilities that had been constructed in absolute secrecy over the past 3 decades. "Admiral, all shadow installations report ready status," she informed Kwan, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. "The aliens are scanning everything they can see, but they're missing what matters most. Asteroid 2087 Delta, positioned in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Song Woo-jin maintained the perfect illusion of a routine mining operation. External sensors would detect massive excavation equipment, ore processing facilities, and the heat signatures of industrial operations that had been running continuously for 8 years. What they wouldn't detect was the fact that the entire asteroid had been hollowed out and converted into humanity's first practical test of gravitational manipulation technology. The mining equipment was real, but it served as camouflage for weapons systems that could bend space-time itself. "Captain, we're reading increased scanner activity from the Imperial vessel," reported Chief Engineer Park Sung-ho from the facilities. "True Command Center, located at the asteroid's core. The space around them hummed with barely contained energy as massive gravitational field generators spun up to operational status. Song keyed his encrypted communicator, knowing that the quantum entanglement communication system would deliver his message instantly and undetectably to Earth's command center. Admiral Quan, this is Captain Song reporting from Delta Station. Gravitic manipulation arrays are online and fully charged. All camouflage systems are functioning normally. The Empire has no idea what we've built out here. Similar reports flowed in from 11 other mining operations, scattered throughout the asteroid belt, each one hiding weapons technology that the galaxy's most advanced civilizations would consider impossible. Humanity had spent decades studying intercepted Imperial communications, learning about their enemies' capabilities, and developing countermeasures that exploited fundamental gaps in alien understanding of physics. The Imperial scanners continued their methodical sweep of the solar system, cataloging every piece of visible technology and dismissing humanity as just another primitive species ripe for conquest. Their instruments detected chemical rockets, nuclear warheads, and kinetic projectiles, exactly what they expected from a civilization that hadn't yet developed faster-than-light travel. They completely missed the quantum manipulation facilities, the gravitational field generators, and the network of installations that had been specifically designed to be invisible to their detection methods. Every piece of advanced technology was shielded, camouflaged, or hidden in ways that exploited the aliens' assumptions about primitive civilizations. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Vexitar reviewed the final intelligence reports with satisfaction. Earth's defenses appeared laughably inadequate, their weapons centuries behind Imperial technology, their space-based assets minimal and unshielded. The conquest would be swift and decisive, adding another easy victory to his long record of successful campaigns. "Prepare the invasion fleet for final approach," he commanded, his scaled features reflecting confidence in another routine subjugation. "This world will fall within hours of our assault." The Imperial forces moved into position, completely unaware that they were walking into the most sophisticated trap in human history. Every scanner sweep, every tactical decision, every assumption about human capabilities had been anticipated and planned for by defenders who had spent decades preparing for this exact moment. Humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to learn, adapt, and surprise their enemies. The aliens were about to discover just how dangerous that combination could be when applied with 30 years of preparation and an understanding of Imperial tactics gained through careful observation of distant battlefields. The trap was set, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The 72-hour deadline expired at exactly 14:27 Universal Standard Time. Commander Vexitar the Conqueror stretched his 4 massive arms across his crystalline throne, his scaled hide shifting to a deep crimson that signaled anticipation of victory. Around him, the command chamber of the Sovereign's Fist buzzed with activity, as alien technicians prepared for what they expected to be another routine planetary conquest. "All weapon systems online, Commander," reported Sub-Commander Kretak, his insectoid mandibles clicking with mechanical precision. "Energy cannons charged to full capacity, plasma torpedo bays loaded, orbital bombardment systems ready for surface strikes." Vexitar's throat sacs expanded with satisfaction as he studied the tactical display floating before him. Earth hung in the center of the hologram like a defenseless fruit waiting to be plucked, its primitive defenses highlighted in laughably weak yellow markers. "Begin the assault," he commanded, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "Show these primitives the price of defying the Empire." The massive Imperial dreadnought lurched forward, its engines casting brilliant blue flames against the darkness of space. Additional warships emerged from hyperspace behind the flagship, their combined firepower capable of reducing entire continents to molten slag within minutes. On Earth's orbital defense station, Admiral Quan Dai Ho watched the alien fleet's approach with steady nerves that betrayed none of the tension he felt. Around him, his crew worked with practiced efficiency at their stations, following protocols they'd drilled for years but never expected to use. "Admiral, Imperial vessels are moving into attack formation," reported Lieutenant Park Mira, her voice tight with controlled fear. They're targeting our major population centers first. Launch Phase 1, Quan ordered, his weathered face showing no emotion as he activated the first part of humanity's desperate gambit. From Earth's surface, crude missiles streaked upward on pillars of chemical flame, their primitive guidance systems locked onto the alien vessels. Nuclear warheads followed, spinning end over end as they climbed toward their targets with agonizing slowness. To any observer, it looked like the pathetic last gasp of a doomed civilization. Vextar's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile among his species as the human weapons approached his fleet. "Activate defensive screens," he ordered lazily. As if swatting away annoying insects, brilliant energy barriers materialized around each Imperial vessel, crackling with power that could deflect the most advanced plasma weapons known to galactic civilization. The human missiles struck these shields and disappeared in brief flashes of light, their chemical explosives utterly ineffective against technology thousands of years more advanced. "Pathetic," Vextar muttered, his scaled features reflecting contempt for humanity's feeble resistance. "Begin orbital bombardment. Target their largest cities first." But then something impossible happened. The moon erupted. Colonel Cho Min-soo pressed his palm against the activation console deep within the lunar facility, and 20 years of hidden construction revealed itself in a blaze of devastating energy. The moon's surface split open along carefully concealed seams, revealing massive railgun installations that had been carved directly into the satellite's rocky core. "Firing solution confirmed," reported Sergeant Yoon Hye-jin, her steady voice, betraying years of training for this exact moment. "Target acquired, all systems green." "Fire," Cho commanded. The lunar railguns discharged with a sound that should have been impossible in the vacuum of space, but the sheer energy release created electromagnetic pulses that resonated through nearby matter. Massive tungsten projectiles, each weighing several tons, accelerated through magnetic fields so powerful they warped space itself. The projectiles reached 97% of light speed within the first kilometer of their journey. Vextar's confident expression vanished as proximity alarms screamed throughout his command chamber. The tactical display showed impossible readings, energy signatures that defied everything the Empire knew about primitive civilizations. "Commander, massive kinetic projectiles approaching at relativistic speeds," screamed the navigation officer, a crystalline being whose translucent form flickered with panic-induced color changes. The first projectile struck the Imperial dreadnought Crimson Destroyer with the force of a small star going supernova. The ship's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma beams and particle weapons, offered no protection against pure kinetic force traveling at near light speed. The tungsten rod punched through the vessel's hull like it was tissue paper, and the ship disintegrated in a brilliant explosion that lit up the solar system. "Impossible!" Vextar roared, his forearms flailing as his throne's systems tried to compensate for the massive shockwaves rippling through his flagship. Their technology. Readings showed primitive capabilities. How are they generating this kind of energy? 300 million kilometers away, on asteroid 2087 Delta, Captain Song Woo-jin watched the destruction of the first Imperial vessel with grim satisfaction. His fingers moved across holographic controls that had cost humanity's entire annual defense budget to develop, activating weapon systems that shouldn't have existed for another 1,000 years of normal technological development. "Gravitic manipulation arrays online," he reported to his crew, most of whom were seeing their life's work activated for the first time. "Beginning localized space-time distortion." The asteroid's surface began to unfold like a metallic flower, revealing the massive gravitational field generators hidden within. These machines could create pockets of warped space-time, generating artificial gravity wells with the strength of collapsed stars. Song targeted the center of the Imperial formation and activated his weapons. Reality twisted. Space itself began to bend around the alien vessels as localized gravity fields, thousands of times stronger than Earth's pull, yanked them off course. Ships that had been approaching in perfect formation suddenly found themselves drawn toward each other with irresistible force. "Admiral, gravitic fields are active," Song reported through the quantum communication link. "Enemy vessels are being pulled into collision courses. They have no defense against gravitational manipulation. The Imperial fleet struggled against forces they couldn't understand or counter. Two massive cruisers, each over 5 kilometers long, slammed into each other as the artificial gravity wells dragged them together. The collision sent shockwaves through both vessels, their advanced hulls buckling under stresses they were never designed to withstand. In Earth's orbital command center, Dr. Nam Yun-jung monitored the battle through sensors that tracked gravitational waves, quantum fluctuations, and energy patterns invisible to conventional detection methods. The 60-year-old physicist had spent her entire career developing the theoretical framework for humanity's impossible weapons, turning science fiction into devastating reality. "Admiral, enemy formation is collapsing," she reported, her voice filled with professional satisfaction. "The gravitational distortions are causing cascade failures in their navigation systems. They can't compensate for forces this localized and precise." Vextar's command chamber shook violently as another kinetic projectile from the lunar installations tore through his fleet's defensive formations. Warning lights bathed the alien bridge in crimson as damage reports flooded in from across his armada. "Shields at 40%, shouted the tactical officer. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 15. We're losing life support on multiple levels." "How is this possible?" Vextar demanded, his scaled hide shifting to deep purple with rage and confusion. "They have no faster-than-light travel, no energy shields, no plasma weapons. How are they generating technology that surpasses our own, Admiral?" Quan allowed himself a cold smile as he watched the alien fleet's formation dissolve into chaos. "Phase 2, execute," he commanded. Across the solar system, 11 more asteroid installations revealed their true nature. What had appeared to be simple mining operations suddenly transformed into massive weapons platforms, their camouflaged surfaces splitting apart to expose railguns, gravitational manipulators, and energy weapons that bent the laws of physics, in ways the Empire had never encountered. Each installation had been positioned with mathematical precision, creating overlapping fields of fire that turned the solar system into an inescapable trap. The aliens had walked into humanity's carefully prepared killing ground, and now they were discovering that Earth's defenders had spent 30 years studying Imperial tactics and developing countermeasures specifically designed to exploit their enemies' weaknesses. "Status report from all installations," Quan ordered. Reports flooded in from across the solar system as humanity's hidden defenders revealed themselves. Ceres Station reported successful target lock on 3 Imperial destroyers. Europa Base confirmed gravitational field deployment around enemy support vessels. The Trojan Point installations began coordinated fire patterns that created a web of destruction around the alien fleet. The hunters had indeed become the hunted, and the Empire was learning that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are those who watch, learn, and prepare in absolute silence for decades before revealing their true capabilities. The battle for Earth had only just begun, but already the impossible was happening. Humanity was winning. The Imperial fleet's perfect formation crumbled like sandcastles before a tsunami as humanity's hidden weapons tore through their ranks. What Commander Vextar had expected to be a routine planetary conquest had transformed into a nightmare of impossible physics and devastating surprises that challenged everything the Empire knew about primitive civilizations. Behind Jupiter's swirling electromagnetic storms, Captain Han Jiwoo felt the familiar vibration of his ship's engines coming to full power after 5 years of silent waiting. The Defiant Promise stretched only 200 meters from bow to stern, a fraction of the size of Imperial dreadnoughts, but every centimeter had been designed with a single purpose: to hunt and destroy vessels 100 times its size. "Captain, all systems are green," reported Navigation Officer Kim Tae-hyun from his position at the ship's quantum interface. The young pilot's neural implants allowed him to control the vessel's movement with thought alone, making reaction times faster than any mechanical system could achieve. "Gravitic drives are at full capacity. We're ready to show these aliens what human engineering can do." Han keyed his communicator to the encrypted frequency shared by Earth's hidden fleet. "All units, this is Defiant Promise. Commence attack. Pattern Alpha. Remember, We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every world these monsters have conquered and every species they've enslaved. Make every shot count. Across the solar system, 17 human vessels emerged from hiding places where they'd remained concealed for years. Unlike the massive, heavily armored ships favored by galactic civilizations, human warships were built on an entirely different philosophy. Speed over size, precision over power, and the element of surprise over brute force. The Ghost Runner materialized from behind Saturn's rings, its adaptive camouflage systems dropping to reveal sleek lines that seemed to bend light around them. The Lightning Strike burst from the asteroid belt like a metallic comet, its engines leaving trails of exotic particles that interfered with Imperial targeting systems. Each ship represented decades of human innovation focused on a single goal, turning their technological disadvantages into tactical advantages. Lieutenant Colonel Park Jin-woo gripped the controls of his fighter-class vessel, Storm's Edge, as it accelerated from its hiding place within Earth's magnetosphere. The single-pilot craft was barely 30 meters long, but it carried weapons that could crack open a moon and defensive systems that bent the laws of physics. Storm's Edge. Landing to sea. Fleet Command, Park transmitted as his ship dove toward the chaotic Imperial formation. Beginning attack run on the flagship. Let's see how their shields handle a little human creativity. The Storm's Edge moved like nothing the Empire had ever encountered. Instead of following predictable flight paths, Park used controlled gravitational fields to change direction instantly, pulling maneuvers that should have crushed any living pilot under impossible G-forces. The ship's inertial dampening systems, based on the same technology as their gravitational weapons, allowed the craft to dance through space like a hummingbird made of living metal. Imperial plasma cannons tracked the tiny vessel, but their targeting, computers couldn't predict movements that violated basic physics. Park's ship would accelerate straight toward a dreadnought, then suddenly vector 90 degrees without slowing down, using localized gravity wells to slingshot around obstacles that existed only when he created them. Target locked, Park announced, his voice steady despite the incredible forces acting on his craft. Initiating gravity lance attack, the Storm's Edge fired a weapon that didn't exist in any Imperial database. Instead of launching projectiles or energy beams, it created a focused gravitational distortion that stretched across space like an invisible spear. The lance struck the Imperial flagship's shield generators and simply turned them inside out, inverting the protective energy fields so they began tearing the ship apart from within. Commander Vex's Tar watched in horror as his flagship's own defensive systems began attacking its hull. Warning klaxons screamed through the command chamber, while alien technicians worked frantically to understand how human weapons could turn their technology against itself. Impossible. Our shields are attacking. "Huz!" shouted the tactical officer, his crystalline form flickering with panic-induced color changes. "The energy patterns are completely reversed. Emergency transmission to Imperial Command," Vextar roared, his forearms gesturing wildly as he struggled to maintain control of the deteriorating situation. "We are facing unknown hostile technology that exceeds our current understanding of physics. Request immediate reinforcement from Sectors 7 through 12. The desperate transmission crackled across hyperspace toward Imperial Command, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. For the first time in centuries, an Imperial fleet was not just facing resistance, but actual defeat at the hands of a supposedly primitive species. Admiral Kwan intercepted the alien distress call from his command center, and a cold smile spread across his weathered features. "Minister Kim, it appears our guests want to invite more friends to the party. Are our long-range assets ready to provide a proper welcome?" Defense Minister Kim So-jin studied the tactical displays showing Imperial fleet movements across multiple star systems. "Colonel Bayek's deep space units have been monitoring Imperial communications for months, Admiral. They're already in position to demonstrate why humanity studies its enemies before revealing itself. 300 light-years away in the Rigel system, Colonel Baek Suho commanded a small flotilla of human vessels that had been secretly observing Imperial operations for over 6 months. The Silent Hunter, Shadow Walker, and Void Stalker had watched alien fleets conduct training exercises, recorded their tactical doctrines, and identified critical weaknesses in their command structure. Admiral, long-range sensors confirm multiple Imperial reinforcement fleets moving toward Earth, Beck reported, through quantum entanglement communications that traveled faster than light without using conventional hyperspace. 3 dreadnought squadrons from Sector 7, 2 battle groups from Sector 9, and what appears to be their reserve fleet from Sector 12. Should we intercept? Quan's expression remained calm despite the magnitude of the forces heading toward Earth. Negative, Colonel. Let them come. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Begin Phase 3 operations. The battle around Earth intensified as more human vessels revealed themselves. The Quantum Fury emerged from behind Luna's far side, its experimental weapons creating tears in spacetime that swallowed Imperial vessels whole. The Stellar Wraith used phased matter technology to become temporarily incorporeal, passing through enemy ships and solidifying inside their hulls to cause devastating internal explosions. Park's Storm's Edge continued its deadly dance through the Imperial formation, using the aliens' own weapons against them with surgical precision. When plasma bolts fired at his position, he created gravity lenses that focused the energy beams back at their sources. When missile swarms pursued his craft, he generated spatial distortions that caused the weapons to chase their own exhaust trails in endless loops. "This is impossible," muttered Imperial Sub-Commander Kretak as he watched his fleet's weapons consistently miss targets that seemed to predict where shots would be fired. "They're moving like they know our battle plans before we execute them." What the aliens didn't realize was that humanity had been intercepting and analyzing Imperial communications for decades. Every tactical manual, every training exercise, every after-action report from conquered worlds had been studied by human strategists who understood their enemies better than the Empire understood itself. Captain Han Ji-woo brought the Defiant Promise alongside the crippled Imperial flagship, his ship's adaptive armor shifting to mirror the electromagnetic spectrum around them. "Commander Vextar, this is Captain Han Ji-woo of Earth's Defense Fleet. Your invasion has failed. Your reinforcements are already being tracked by our deep space assets. Surrender now, and we might allow your surviving crew to return home with news of what they've learned here." The tide of battle had turned completely. What began as Imperial conquest had become a masterclass in human military doctrine, decades of preparation, superior intelligence gathering, and the absolute determination to protect their home at any cost. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their impossible technology, but their willingness to spend years planning for a single moment of perfect execution. The silence that followed, the destruction of the Imperial fleet, was more terrifying than any battle cry. Broken dreadnoughts drifted through Earth's orbital space like metallic corpses, their once mighty hulls cracked open and bleeding atmosphere into the void. Emergency lights flickered weakly within the shattered vessels, casting eerie shadows across debris fields that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Commander Vextar the Conqueror slumped in his crystalline throne, his 4 massive arms hanging limp at his sides. The scaled warrior who had conquered 200 worlds now stared at tactical displays showing the complete annihilation of his supposedly invincible fleet. Around him, the command chamber of the Sovereign's Fist sparked with damaged systems, while alien technicians worked desperately to keep life support functioning. "Commander, we have multiple hull breaches on all decks," reported Sub-Commander Kretak, his insectoid features clicking with barely controlled panic. "Our weapon systems are completely offline. Navigation is down. We're dead in space." Vextar's throat sacs deflated as the reality of his situation sank in. Never in his 3 centuries of conquest had he faced defeat, let alone such a complete and humiliating destruction of his forces. The primitive humans had turned his own confidence against him, using weapons that shouldn't have existed and tactics that defied everything the Empire knew about warfare. "Open a communication channel to the human fleet," he commanded, his voice barely a whisper compared to its earlier arrogance. The transmission crackled to life, carrying Vextar's surrender across the void to Admiral Quan's command center. "Earth forces, this is Fleet Commander Vextar. We formally surrender our remaining vessels and personnel. Our fleet is disabled and no longer poses a threat to your world. We request mercy under the Galactic Warfare Conventions and safe passage for our surviving crew members. Admiral Quan Deho stood before the main viewer in Earth's orbital command center, his weathered face showing no emotion as he listened to the alien's desperate plea. Around him, his staff monitored dozens of displays showing the scattered remains of what had been the Empire's most powerful invasion force just hours earlier. "Admiral, our quantum communication array is ready for galaxy-wide broadcast," reported Dr. Nam Yunjung from her technical station. The elderly physicist's eyes gleamed with satisfaction as she prepared to activate systems that would carry humanity's message to every inhabited world in known space. Defense Minister Kim So-jin stepped forward, her expression grave as she considered the magnitude of what they were about to do. "Admiral, Colonel Bayek reports that Imperial reinforcement fleets from 12 different sectors are approaching our system. According to their intercepted communications, they still believe this is a standard conquest operation." Quan nodded slowly, understanding that this moment would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. Then it's time to educate, not just the Empire, but every civilization that's been watching this conflict. "Activate the communication array, Doctor." Nam's fingers danced across holographic controls that accessed quantum networks spanning the entire galaxy. The same communication systems the Empire used to coordinate their vast territories would now carry humanity's first official message to the stars. "Broadcasting on all frequencies, Admiral," she confirmed. "Every major civilization in the galaxy will receive this transmission." Quan activated the array, and his voice began traveling faster than light across hundreds of star systems, reaching alien worlds that had never heard of Earth or humanity. "Attention, Galactic Empire and all spacefaring civilizations. This is Admiral Quan Deho of Earth's Unified Defense Council, speaking on behalf of the human species. Your invasion fleet lies defeated in our solar system, but understand this. What happened here was never about defending just one world." On asteroid 2087 Delta, Captain Song Woo-jin watched through his facility's sensors as deep space monitoring stations across the galaxy detected something unprecedented: Imperial fleets that had been moving toward Earth with conquest in mind suddenly began changing course, their commanders receiving orders to hold position, while Imperial Command tried to understand what had happened to Vextar's supposedly invincible armada. "Captain, we're detecting massive confusion in Imperial communication networks," reported Chief Engineer Park Sung-ho. "Fleet commanders across 12 sectors are requesting clarification of the situation. They can't believe an entire invasion. Force has been destroyed by a primitive species." Quan's broadcast continued, his words carrying the weight of humanity's collective determination. "For 30 years, we have watched your wars from the shadows. We have studied your tactics, analyzed your technologies, and learned from every mistake you've made on distant battlefields. We remained hidden not from fear, but from wisdom. You have awakened something that should have remained sleeping." 300 light-years away in the Rigel system, Colonel Baek Suho activated hidden installations that had been disguised as space debris for years. Across the galaxy, similar facilities came online simultaneously, revealing the true scope of humanity's preparation for this moment. "All deep space assets are active, Admiral," Baek reported through quantum entanglement communications. "Sleeper, ships, monitoring stations and weapons platforms spanning 47 star systems are now fully operational. The Empire is beginning to understand they're not dealing with a single isolated world." Colonel Cho Min-soo initiated a galaxy-wide sensor sweep from his lunar command center, and the results appeared on displays throughout Earth's defense network. Hidden human installations revealed themselves across Imperial space, showing that humanity had been preparing for this confrontation on a scale that defied imagination. "The tactical display is updating now, Admiral," Cho reported. "Every major Imperial world, communication relay and supply depot has been under surveillance for years. We know their capabilities better than they know themselves." Quan's voice carried across the void with absolute authority. "You came to our system with the arrogance of conquerors. You believed our isolation meant weakness. You assumed that because we had not revealed ourselves, we were not ready. You were catastrophically wrong. Across 12 Imperial sectors, human forces that had been positioned in secret for years began coordinated operations. But these weren't attacks aimed at conquest or destruction. Instead, they represented something far more sophisticated: the surgical dismantling of the Empire's ability to wage aggressive warfare. Captain Han Ji-woo's fleet emerged from hyperspace near the Imperial fortress world of Kepler Prime, their ships moving with the precision of a surgical strike team. Instead of bombarding population centers, they targeted communication arrays, weapons manufacturing facilities, and the massive shipyards that produced the Empire's dreadnoughts. "Defiant promise to all units," Han transmitted to his strike force. "Remember, we're not here to conquer or destroy. We're here to remove their ability to threaten other worlds. Precision strikes only, no civilian casualties." The human vessels moved through Imperial space like ghosts, their adaptive camouflage and advanced sensors allowing them to avoid detection until the moment they struck. Weapons platforms that had taken the Empire decades to build disappeared in brilliant flashes of light, while communication networks that coordinated their vast territories went silent one by one. "The age of Imperial expansion ends today," Quan announced to the galaxy. "Humanity offers every civilization a choice: coexistence based on mutual respect and cooperation, or face the consequences of our defensive capabilities. We do not seek to rule others, but we will not tolerate being ruled or threatened." The response came faster than anyone had expected. Across dozens of star systems, alien civilizations that had suffered under Imperial rule for centuries began broadcasting messages of support. Species that had been forced into slavery sent desperate pleas for alliance. Worlds that had watched their neighbors destroyed by Imperial fleets offered to join any coalition that could finally end the Empire's reign of terror. Minister Kim So-jin smiled as communication logs filled with diplomatic overtures from across the galaxy. "Admiral, it appears the entire galaxy was waiting for someone to finally challenge the Empire's authority. We're receiving alliance requests from over 200 different civilizations. Then we'd better make sure we're worthy of that trust," Quan replied, understanding the enormous responsibility that came with their victory. "Colonel Beck, begin implementing the new territorial agreements. All Imperial forces are to withdraw to their core systems within 1 standard month. Any vessel found in another species' territory after that deadline will be considered an act of aggression." As reports flowed in from across the galaxy, it became clear that humanity's carefully planned operation had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. Not only had they defeated the invasion of Earth, but they had simultaneously crippled the Empire's ability to threaten any other world. The galactic balance of power had shifted in a single day, and for the first time in centuries, previously enslaved species dared to hope for freedom. The dust settled on humanity's first and only warning to the galactic community, but the reverberations would continue for generations. Earth's position among the stars was forever changed, not through conquest or aggression, but through the wisdom to prepare, the courage to act, and the absolute resolve to protect not just their own world, but every world that deserved to be. Free from tyranny, the galaxy would never be the same, and the age of Imperial domination was over. The end.